Hello, everybody. Margot Levette back with another episode. And, I've had the opportunity and the honor to sit down with some fabulous women who are co-hosting and they are speaking at Kern Crockett Cherry's Level Up Summit. And some of you will catch this episode after the summit, which takes place March the 25th through the 27th. But it doesn't matter because what my guest today is going to present to you will be life changing, and you will want to hear from her. You will want to have her in your space. So let me welcome Ashley Montgomery.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
I tell you, you are a dynamo. And before we hit ready, set, go, you let me know that you are from a very small town, someplace in the South. You want to just let us know what was that like growing up, and then just kind of take us on to the meat of why we are really here.
Yes. I'm from a little small country town where we have crawfish balls and fish fries and sauce pecan, the good food. Well, I'm from Lake Charles, Louisiana. And growing up in Lake Charles was it was exciting. We really wasn't exposed to much because it's a small country town. But I was a teenage mom at the age of 17 years old. So I basically kind of cut my whole childhood like short. Like all my dreams and goals, I felt like was crumbling in my face. So just growing up in Lake Charles as a teenage mother at the age of 17 and then being hit with multiple hurricanes, that was very challenging. We're from the South, especially Louisiana, we get hit with a lot of hurricanes. And I remember relocating at the age of 19 years old. We got hit by Hurricane Rita. That was right after Hurricane Katrina. And I had to move to Georgia with me, my older sister. So that was a different shift in my life. It was things that I was not expecting. I'm traveling on the road to a whole nother state with two little children. At the time I had a 6-month old, a 2-month old, and a 1-year old. So I'm 19 years old, traveling on the road with two little kids, a single teenager mom, and so that was a journey itself. It was very challenging. Growing up in this small town, not exposed to a lot of things, and then moving to a big city that I don't know anything about with two little kids. So I had a lot on my plate. I went through a lot. I overcame a lot, but I believe that is what made who I am today. Mm-hmm. I remember asking my dad when I was in Atlanta. I was still looking for a job, and I'm like, Dad, I need some money. And he was like, you want to be a grown and have children? Oh, you need to get it on your own. I'm like, so my daddy showed me tough love, and I'm so excited that he showed me tough love, because I would not be the woman that I am today. And my daddy would have never pushed me into really saying, okay, I got to get it. I don't have nobody else caring for my sons and I, so I have to get out there and get it. I had to change my mindset of daddy, calling my daddy, give me. And I have to get out there on my own and get it for me and my sons on my own. So it was a journey, being a young teenage mom, traveling to a whole nother state during not the pandemic, the hurricanes. So it was, but that's what made me who I am today, the journey that I've been on.
Well, I can tell you are a go-getter. Now, the two hurricanes back to back hit. You have to leave Lake Charles, Louisiana. Here you are on the road to Atlanta, GA. Oh my goodness. It's like going from Rockford, Illinois to New York City or something of the kind. What happened? How did you get situated there in Atlanta? How did you put your roots down? And then did you ever get back to Louisiana?
Yes. So my journey, when I got to Atlanta, like I said, I was used to the country. I wasn't used to this city life. And it was a lot of adjusting. I really could, it was hard for me to find somebody to watch my children because we didn't have any family members out there. It was just me and my sister, and she was working. also. So we had to try to find childcare, which was very challenging because I really didn't trust a lot of people
Mhm.
watching my kids, especially in a big city. So that was very challenging trying to find childcare. And then I found a place which I trusted, which was awesome. It was awesome. But while I'm in Atlanta, I ended up trying to find different jobs. I didn't find anything fulfilling. And I'm like, no, my goal was to go to school for nursing.
Mhm.
So I had to put all that on the back burner because I'm a single teenage mom and I'm in a whole nother state trying to find work so I can care for them.
Yeah.
And I remember I ended up finding this job working at a call center. I was a customer service representative in this call center.
Wow.
And I'm working 6 days a week, about 14, 15 hours a day, barely seeing my children. But I had to do what I had to do because it was just me taking care of them. Like I said, I'm 19, going into my 20, going into my 20s, and basically put everything on hold, put my careers, my goals, everything was put on hold because I had to step up and be a mother.
Yes.
So all of that was happening and occurring. I found a good job, which was taking really time away from my children, but I was able to care for them and be able to provide for them. And then my oldest son, he had RSV. It's a respiratory disease, and when he was younger, so he started having a lot of flares, and he started having
Mhm.
like I had to move back. I had to move back. This was probably like 3 years later. I ended up moving back to Louisiana because everything was together. They brought the city back up, So I was able to move back with my two sons. And when I moved back, that's when I decided because I'm back at home. I have help with my kids. My grandmother stepped up. She was always there. She's deceased now, but she was always there for me and my siblings. And when we was talking about the other day about the Women's Empowerment Month, my grandmother was that's still the woman that I look up to because she had so much faith. She the
Mm.
one pushed me and was watching my children for me to go back to school for nursing and for me to continue to further my education. She was always there. She would be on her knees. Every time I go there, she was like, I don't go to church, but I pray. I get on my knees and I pray. She had so much faith. She
Yes.
was like 80 years old and never was on any medication.
Wow.
That's how much faith she had. And her faith, I know, was pushed into me. It was sown into me because I modeled that. I looked at that. I'm like, this is a great woman of faith.
Mhm.
So I developed my faith from my grandmother. So this journey that I've been on and that I continue to be on, it was all started from my grandmother, her faith. She had faith like to move mountains. So that's how come I have the faith that I am. A lot of people was like, how is she doing all those things? It's faith.
Faith.
I don't,
Mhm.
I believe something that I cannot see. I just go with the flow and do it. So that was my journey. So we did move back to Louisiana and I had help with from my grandmother and I was able to further my education and graduate with my nursing degree, and it didn't stop there. So I didn't know if you want me to go into it, but just to continue on.
I'm listening to I'm still mesmerized with this thing of faith, and I see how it's working in your life. But before we started the recording, you told me more and took me deeper into your life. And people don't have that kind of faith. They get so frozen and afraid of the outcome or lack of outcome until they just don't make a move. So you graduated, you're in LVN now, definitely able to care for your children, but it doesn't stop there. Take us on to your next, because you have these layers of next.
Yes. So yeah, so when I went back to school and graduated with my LVN nursing license, I was working. I was trying to find out where I wanted to be. Well, I end up getting a job. My sister-in-law is a medical psychologist. She's a
Mm.
doctor, a physician. So I'm on this journey, and it's like God continues to connect me to powerful women that continue to push me. And so I went to her business just as the nursing administrator. That's all I was. I was just her nursing administrator. Well, she continued to push me into picking up other duties. Like she had me starting her pharmacy. She had me starting her mental health program. I was doing billing. I was doing so much. And like I tell everybody, I could have went there and say, I'm just a nurse. I'm not doing all of that. But I continue to learn and grow everything that she was pouring into me. I was there for a season. It started getting overwhelming though, because when I started there, she only had 5 employees.
Wow.
And within 2 years, she had over 200 employees. And it was based on me helping her build her vision. And so I started, like I said, I was the administrator. I was over all of these employees. So I started getting a little overwhelmed. I started like spending time away from home. I started getting, and I was like, God, this is not for me. He was like, nope, it's not your time to move. I need to continue to pour into you. Like I was so uncomfortable. And like I tell a lot of people, sometimes God will put you in an uncomfortable position to push you into position. And I felt so uncomfortable. I was just like, this is not what you have for me. But I didn't leave. It wasn't my time to leave. He was continuing to pour into me as I was continuing to pour into her business.
Yes.
I was building her vision. I was sowing into her vision, everything that she wanted to do. But not only was I sowing it into hers, it was being sown into me, because everything that I learned, I was able to take that and move on. But like I tell a lot of people on my journey, I do a lot of fasting. Like I will fast. I remember I was like, God, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm ready to go. I feel like my season is up. And I couldn't hear from him because sometimes we have a lot of distractions, a lot of noise. So you can't really hear what God wants you to do next, because you don't even know who's talking. So the fast helped me hear. It consecrated me. So I did a 3-day fast. And when I did that 3-day fast, I didn't have anything to eat, anything to drink. I felt so weak. I felt like I was about to pass out. This was after being there for 6 years when I decided to make that transition. So I learned everything I learned. And at this point, I'm like real uncomfortable. And I'm like, okay, I know it's time. But so I did the fast. And on the last day of the fast, I listened to Apostle Juanita Bynum a lot. Yes. And I remember she was speaking and she was like, yeah, they gave you that position. You're making that money. I was making 6 figures. She said, but it's time to let it go. And I'm like, what? Like, because I'm like, you so used to job security. And I'm like, you want me to let this go? Like, what I'm going to do? Like, I have bills. I have all this, that I have to pay I have to take care of my children. I went without before God. I ain't willing to go without again. So I'm like, okay, but I acted in obedience. And as soon as I heard that message, and I knew it was God speaking because it was right after the fast. And I acted in obedience. In that following Monday, because it was on that Friday, I put in my resignation.
Wow.
I resigned. Wow. And I remember going home and I told my family, and I told my oldest son, I said, I'm about to quit my job. And he said, Mama, what we gonna do? I was like, I don't know. I said, God told me to leave it. And even who I was working for, my sister-in-law, she didn't even understand. Like, I never told no one that I fasted and did this. Nobody understood why I was leaving. But this was not my decision. This was between God. He was telling me my season was up. And so I remember going home, and I remember, like I said, we started after I left a month later, because I gave her 30 days because I was there for so long, and I just wanted to show the next person on everything that I did so it could be a smooth transition. And I remember after that, I started like my savings account was getting low. And I'm like, I don't have no money, like stuff to start getting bad. And I tried to go look for another job. And I remember going to this facility. That's why I say we get so used to job security. We get used to relying on the system instead of relying on God. True. And I remember getting to that job and I was so uncomfortable. I remember telling my husband, I say, this is not where I'm supposed to be. And he was looking at me like, you better work. I'm like, God did that. No. But, so I was like, I'm about to leave. So I ended up resigning from that place. And that was in September of 2019. And I went without a job. I could have, I'm a nurse. I could have easily went work anywhere. And in December of 2019 is when I went to this conference. I went to this conference with Dr. Cindy Trim. And I went to the conference based on faith because, like I said, I didn't have any money. I kind of jumped ahead, but between that part, like we had to move out of our house. We had to sell our house, and we had to move in when our family members rent houses because I didn't have it.
Hold up right there. How did your husband receive that? Because some people, they would have thought, I mean, are you sure you heard God where you actually had to move in with another family member? That is really bold walking in faith.
Yes, he was skeptical at first. It kind of was putting a little tension through our marriage because I'm like, he already know my journey. Like if I hear from God, I'm gonna walk in obedience. That's been my whole journey. And so it was a little tension between the marriage, and like sometimes it would be like little arguments because he didn't understand. Yeah. And he didn't understand until he started seeing, because he had his own business, but his business wasn't doing like really well for me to just up and leave a job where I know I got money coming in. So, but when we moved out of our house and moved into the family members' rent house, that was so uncomfortable. Like selling our house and moving in. I had to put my kids through this, and it was nice that I cried. I say, God, I'm about to cry thinking about it. I say, this is not your plan. In Jeremiah 29:11, God, you say your thoughts and your plans towards us is good and not of evil. Your plan is not for me to struggle, like for the people to be calling to come and pick up my vehicle, repo my vehicle. Yeah. And I will keep on going, hold on, because God is so faithful. So I'm like, this is not your plan. And so when I remember going to a conference that was a step of faith, going to the conference in Atlanta with Dr. Cindy Trim, and Les Brown was also there. Oh, wow. And that was based on faith because I didn't really have it, but I went there with expectation. I said, God, I'm going to this conference and you got a word for me. I said, I'm not about to be stagnated no more the rest of this year. I already feel like something is about to shift. Yes. So while I was at that conference, and I was making sure I go to every session, and Dr. Cindy Trim, she had a lot of sessions. Oh, but yeah. I was like, I'm not about to miss one because I'm not about to miss the word. And I remember I was sitting in one session, and I remember her speaking, and she said, God is calling you to start that business. She said 2020 is going to be the year of elevation. She was saying it's going to be unprecedented. It's like she already had prophesied everything that was going to happen in 2020. And so she was like, he's calling you to start that staffing agency. She literally said that. And that had been my desire for years. And I took that word and I said, that is for me. I only needed her to speak that, and I ran with that. When I got back home, I started researching how to start a staffing agency. I started pouring my time in it. And, years ago, I wanted to start a staffing agency, but I brought it to somebody else because I felt like I didn't have the qualification, the money. I didn't feel like I didn't have nothing to do with the resources. And it never went through because God was like, that wasn't that person idea. That's what I gave you. And it just wasn't moving. But anyway, so when I got back home, I did everything. I submitted paperwork, and I remember going into the bank. I went into the bank to open up a business account because I was listening to, it was Michael Todd. And I remember he said, you gotta have faith. He said, go start that business account. And so I went into the bank with $25 and opened up my business account. It's like the bank teller looked at me and was like, I'm like, you don't even know what God is up to because I don't even know what he's up to. So just take this $25 and open up this account. Yeah. So I opened up the business account with $25 based on faith. So my whole journey been based on faith. I did not know what God was up to. And so in February, that's when my license and everything started coming back. Like everything started falling into place. I had to take an exam to open up a healthcare staffing agency. It came back, my certification, everything just came back. And in in March, that's when I had over, like I started researching, I started on Indeed. I had over 40 employees in March. Like I started, and then that's when the pandemic hit in March of 2020. And I remember I'm trying to get contracts because they calling me and saying, oh, we ready to go to work, we ready to go to work. And I'm like, can't get no contracts. Nobody wanted to meet with me because the pandemic was going on. And they was like, we're not meeting with anybody because of the pandemic. So I'm over here like, okay, I got all these employees, but I don't have any contracts. And it's like God had to continue to remind me, faith, believing in something you can't see. Just because you don't see those contracts, they are coming. Well, right after that in April, in March, I decided to take an assignment to go do COVID. Like, that's when, I became a travel nurse, like in the midst of all of that. So I ended up going to Florida to take an assignment to do COVID testing because nobody knew what was going on. And I remember my mom asked me, she said, girl, you going way out there? They got people dying left to right. I say, Mama, I have faith. I say, just as God protected me all this time, he's going to continue protecting me. I say, I'm going. Yeah. And that was a blessing that I went because that's what helped me have this debt-free business. Wow. So I went out there to go and sow into somebody else's vision, working on with another agency. And while I was out there, contracts started going through because this woman told me, she said, Ashley, just email them. And then I was like, oh, all the rejection. She said, let me tell you this, for every no, there's going to be a yes. Yes. So while I'm in Florida, sewing into somebody else's business, somebody else's agency working, I'm sitting there moving money around. Every time I got paid, I'm paying my employees. But I wanted to let you know, right when I got out there, when all those contracts started coming, right when I got out there and started sewing into somebody else's business, contracts started coming. In April, I had over 40 contracts, where in March, I didn't have one. It was just, that's how the movement of God. And this man asked me, he said, Ashley, did you start your staffing agency based on the pandemic? I say, no. I said, I started my staffing agency in December. That's when the idea come, before anybody knew about the pandemic. I say, just as God told Noah to build an ark when it was dry land, he told me to build that business when nobody even knew what was going on. And that's what catapulted me, because my whole journey has been based on God. It has been based on obedience, fasting, praying, believing, and just having faith.
Oh my, I need to stop you right there. There are some people who would have stopped altogether in January. They are February. They would not have had the faith to move forward, work with someone else, and trust God to bring in those contracts. You had employees, people looking at you. You said you're going to have this job. You said you're going to have this agency, and look at God. I mean, this is what you hit on so many points where I hope that people hear you, where instead of stopping, you keep pushing, you plant your feet and you keep moving. Ashley, I'm looking at the time and we could go on and on because I have so many questions in my head. My last question to you is your journey, and knowing that there are those who are going to launch a business, some kind of business. At the end of the day, it's not going to be easy. But what is the one thing that they had better do at the very beginning before they do anything? Become an LLC, corporation, anything. What should they do?
I think so. What I would say is they need to pray about it. They need to write everything down. Like it's you're going to have challenges, you're going to have obstacles that's going to come your way, but you have to pray because everybody just jumping in business, and then that's the reason why a business do not last, because that's not where you're supposed to be. Sometimes, like I said earlier, sometimes God will plant you somewhere so you can know what it is that you need to do. You're sowing into somebody else, and God is actually sowing into you. So pray, pray, pray. I feel like praying is and like I said, some people fasting. And it don't have to be a spiritual fast, but that's what I use, a spiritual fast. But if somebody is not on that level yet, and it don't have to be a spiritual fast, but just fast from social media, fast from negative people, fast from negative family members, or whatever is distracting you. I believe that you need to fast and consecrate yourself so you can hear and know what it is for you to do in this next season. Because I believe everybody was called to do something great. God said he has called us to do greatness. We were created for greatness, but you have to identify what that greatness is. And praying and fasting will help you identify it.
I couldn't have said it any better. To be able to hear that clarity that the coaches always say that you have to have, it's so true. If you don't have clarity, and God will give you clarity. Ashley Montgomery, you are something else. What can I say? We forgot to tell people that you graduated as an LVN, but you pushed yourself on and you became an RN. I want people to know that. You've been
Yes,
pushing the envelope for a long while.
yes, on my journey of becoming a nurse, like when I was in Florida, I went back to school to become a registered nurse. And it was a tough journey. Like I had obstacles. I went from school to school, and one school I ended up spending money that ended up being like a fraud. It was a waste of time. But I continue to push. I continue to strive to go further. And my goal is to become a nurse practitioner, a psych nurse practitioner, because I want to open up my own psych practice. So during this conference, Level Up, I feel like there's never a season where you do not have you're not leveling up. You're going to always go to another level. So don't ever become stagnated, become stuck. Don't even look at a title, because like I said, I was able to start everything that I started as an LVN. So a title is just a title. You have to have that mindset to say that you're going to push into greatness and level up. So no matter what you're up against, no matter where you at in life, just continue to push and always feel like there's another level. There's another level to level up.
I couldn't say, you know what? If people get a chance to hear this before the Level Up Summit, I just attend. That's all I can say. If they listen after the summit, then they need to be on the lookout for it next year, because people like Ashley Montgomery, I mean, you're just pouring into people, and you can't help but. I think there's a part of you that is a bit of a teacher, and you're so transparent. And that's what the world needs today. They need to hear your stories. They really, really do. So
Yes.
I appreciate you being here today. I know I have grown. I heard some nuggets for me about keep pushing, and you just have to keep leveling up. Until, I would imagine, we're going to level up until we die.
Yes.
Sounds like a deal to me.
Yes.
Well, Ashley, tell us where can we find you? Perhaps we need to be in contact with you. How do we find you?
Yes. So if you are, and I always say this, if you are someone who is tired of working your 9 to 5, or you need a shift in your career, I do have a program that is called 60 Days to Six Figures. And I teach individuals on how to earn 6 figures within 60 days, and how you can get more information on this program on my website at ashleykeyspeaks.com. That's www.ashleykeyspeaks.com. Or you can also reach me on Instagram at Ashley Key Speaks, or on Facebook at Ashley Key. I'm also on Clubhouse at Ashley Key Speaks. So if you and also I didn't mention this, I also have a book that is about to launch. in May. It's called Created for Greatness, and we are writing with the legendary Les Brown. That is my second book. I wrote a book with him also called Ignite the Hunger in You, and basically that's what I tell my story. Some of my story, what I just spoke on right now, my journey of becoming a successful entrepreneur. And so I'm writing a second book with him also, but this time I am the visionary author, and it's called Created for Greatness. And I have 20 plus women that will be in this book telling their stories and how they were created for greatness. And you can also find that book. We're on doing our pre-launch on my website at ashleykeyspeaks.com.
Busy lady, doing a lot, leveling up all around you and leveling up other women also.
Yes,
Man,
ma'am.
wow. This has been so cool. You guys have the information. I'll make sure that, well, we're in the transcription, in the show notes, all of that information will be here. I'm Margot Levat. The time just goes by so fast. I have so many other questions I want to ask, but we're going to have to, I want to have another conversation with you, Ashley, at another date, because you have this thing of faith. I think so often we want to have the academia and we want to have the hookup or who we know, which all of that comes into play. I will not downplay it, but without confidence and this measure of faith, we really can't go as far as we want to go. So I want to have you come back and let's talk about that, because I think that's a missing element. What do you think? What do you think?
I think it is, because we were just talking about this earlier. You have to step over fear and step in faith. Faith and fear cannot remain in the same mind. You're either going to have fear or you're going to have faith, and fear will cripple you. And I feel like that is the missing component these days. That's why a lot of people are not there. That's why they have a lot of depression. They're not happy. They're not happy with their life. That, like, like you said, we're gonna have a deeper conversation, because when I get real deep, I had to use faith not just for business, but for my marriage, for my children. I had to use faith a lot of things throughout my life. So I feel like faith is the thing that's going to sustain everything. You got to keep believing something even when you do not see it. Right. And I had to use that concept. And my marriage is the one that did it for me. I've been with my husband for 20 years.
Oh my goodness.
Since I was 16 years old. And we went through a lot. So when I said I was a single mom, at that time, I was definitely a single mom, because it's a story. But we are married and been together for 20 years today. So it was faith. I believe my marriage is the one that activated the faith, because I had to believe for something that I did not even see, even when it looked like I wanted to give up, throw in the towel, and just shut everything down. I'm like, but I had to utilize that faith to build me back up. So that is the missing component. I feel like that's why a lot of people are stagnated. They are stuck. They're not stepping into their greatness. Their life is unfulfilling because they don't have faith. As soon as they get an obstacle, they're ready to shut down and give up and throw in the towel. But you got to keep pushing. You got to keep striving, and you got to keep leveling up, because faith is what's going to take you to the next level.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk. I love it. And those that don't believe in faith, you don't have to listen. That's the way I feel about that. But there's plenty of folks, that's the missing component, the missing piece. So yeah. Ashley Montgomery, gosh, I know that I signed up for the Level Up Summit. I can't wait to hear you and the other ladies. And like I say, I definitely want you to come back and be a part of Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me. I really did enjoy it. I know I talked a lot. You pushed me out of my comfort zone.
But nobody can tell your story like you can. And I knew that it was a bright, rich, vibrant story. So I didn't want to just interject, but some of that stuff was just like, ooh. I just want to jump in there and ask somebody. I didn't want to mess up the flow. So all is well. All is well. So ladies and gentlemen, see, this is the caliber of speaker that Karen Crockett Cherry brings to the Level Up Summit, to any of her summits. So if you don't, like I say, if you don't catch this year's 2022 Level Up Summit. Be on the lookout for it next year in 2023. But you definitely want to reach out to Ashley Montgomery. The 60 days to six figures, you better check her out. I think she has the credentials to get you there. Okay. Margaret Levette, thanks for listening. I'll be back next time, and just stay safe. Bye-bye now.
Bye.